Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely profound journey, right out of the scriptures. We are taking a deep dive into Psalm 28. Now, this is a text that starts off as a really intense, agonizing personal lament, but then it just miraculously explodes into this glorious corporate praise. Plunged into a situation where the wicked are literally threatening to drag him down into destruction, King David cries out to Yahweh, fully realizing that if Elohim remains silent, he's absolutely going to perish. Now for us, as Torah-observant believers, this psalm isn't just some beautiful ancient poetry. It gives us vital, practical instructions on exactly how we need to petition heaven during times of acute deception and injustice.
Here's how we're going to break down this exegetical journey. First, we'll look at the cry to the rock, and then we'll move right into unmasking the deceitful hearts. After that, we're going to hit the explosive pivot to joy, explore the saving refuge of Israel, and we'll wrap the whole thing up by looking at the prophetic fulfillment in Yeshua. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The cry to the rock, facing the threat of divine silence. Let's look exactly at how David kicks off this desperate plea in verses 1 and 2. Quote, "To you I will cry, O Yahweh, my rock. Do not be silent to me, lest, if you are silent to me, I become like those who go down to the pit. Hear the voice of my supplications when I cry to you, when I lift up my hands towards your holy sanctuary." End quote. He's directing this cry straight to the divine bedrock, practically begging his rock not to turn a deaf ear to him.
Notice that Hebrew word there, bor, which gets translated as the pit. David recognizes this stark, completely terrifying reality. If Yahweh closes his ears and goes silent, human life just rapidly degenerates into this hopeless void of destruction. Without the voice of Elohim, there's literally only the pit. That horror of divine silence, that is the ultimate threat to any covenant believer.
So to keep from falling into that void, David takes on a classic covenant posture. He doesn't just think his prayer, he raises an articulate, vocal cry, the voice of supplication. But pay attention to the direction of his prayer. He lifts his hands specifically toward the Devir. Now the Devir is the innermost holy of holies of Yahweh's sanctuary. The takeaway for us, when we face heavy trials, our cry shouldn't just be cast aimlessly into the wind. Our hands and our hearts need to be intentionally directed toward the holiness of Yahweh. Section 2. Unmasking the deceitful hearts. The anatomy of judgment. In verse 3, David prays, quote, "Do not take me away with the wicked and with the workers of iniquity, who speak peace to their neighbors, but evil is in their hearts." End quote. He's actively pleading with Yahweh not to be swept up in the judgment that's coming for these evildoers, and by doing that, he exposes their defining characteristic, which is this totally double-minded nature. It's a crazy contrast when you think about it. On the outside, they're speaking words of peace or shalom to their neighbors. They sound friendly, they sound super righteous, but on the inside, totally hidden away, they are harboring malicious evil, or ra'ah, in their hearts. This right here is the ultimate deception that we, as Torah-observant believers, have to navigate all the time. People who use all the right covenant language but completely lack a covenant heart. Because of this deep, deep hypocrisy, David doesn't hold back. He prays for absolute covenant justice. Let's read verses 4 and 5. Quote, "Give them according to their deeds and according to the wickedness of their endeavors. Give them according to the work of their hands. Render to them their due reward. Because they do not regard the works of Yahweh, nor the operation of his hands, he shall destroy them and not build them up." End quote. David is grounding his prayer firmly, completely in the justice of the Most High. So it's really crucial to understand how Elohim processes this kind of thing. Here's the anatomy of judgment directly from the text. Step 1 is the deceit. Smooth talk on the surface, evil heart underneath. Step 2 is their ignorance. They are deliberately blinding themselves to the works and the hands of Yahweh in creation and in his Torah. Step 3 brings the law of retribution, the recompense. The Hebrew term used here is gemulama, meaning they are rendered a reward according to the work of their own hands. And finally, step 4 is the final verdict. Because they chose to ignore Yahweh, they are going to be demolished and never rebuilt. It's perfectly balanced justice. Section 3. The explosive pivot to joy, from agonizing cry to triumphant declaration. Check out the massive, absolute shift in tone when we hit verses 6 and 7. Quote, "Blessed be Yahweh, because he has heard the voice of my supplications. Yahweh is my strength and my shield. My heart trusted in him, and I am helped. Therefore my heart greatly rejoices, and with my song I will praise him." End quote. The fear of that silent void, it is totally gone. He boldly declares that Yahweh has heard his voice. David is processing this glorious deliverance through what we can call the triad of covenant joy. First up, you have the foundation. Yahweh is his strength, his Uzi, and his shield, his Magani. Second is the action. David says his heart trusted, Batak, and because of that deep faith, he was helped, Neazarti. And finally, the overflow. His heart greatly rejoices, and with his song, Mishri, he praises Yahweh. That internal faith literally produces this external musical explosion of thanksgiving. Section 4. The Saving Refuge of Israel, expanding personal victory to national blessing. Let's look at how he wraps this up in the final verses, 8 and 9. Quote, Yahweh is their strength, and he is the saving refuge of his anointed. Save your people and bless your inheritance. Shepherd them also and bear them up forever. End quote. David is amazing here because he doesn't just hoard this deliverance for himself. He takes his answered prayer and turns it into a covering for the entire nation. Notice this incredibly crucial phrase, Ma'os Yeshuat. David is declaring that Yahweh is the saving strength and refuge of his anointed, his Mashiach. You see, within the covenant structure, Yahweh's care for the individual anointed king is directly, fundamentally tied to the well-being, the strength, and the ultimate salvation of the whole nation. As it goes with the Mashiach, so it goes with all of Israel. Because of that deep connection, David finishes with this absolutely beautiful fourfold pastoral prayer for Israel. Let's break down these original Hebrew verbs. He prays for Yahweh to save, Hoshia, meaning deliver the people from every single threat. To bless, Barach, to pour out favor upon his covenant inheritance. To shepherd, Raham, to guide them continuously just like a flock. And finally to carry, Nasam, to physically lift them up and bear them in his arms forever. Section 5. Prophetic fulfillment in Yashua, the ultimate realization of Psalm 28. Now let's look at how Yashua perfectly fulfilled that initial cry from the pit. Facing the execution stake and the literal, terrifying silence of the grave, Yashua lifted up his own supplications to the Father. And just exactly as David was heard, the book of Hebrews chapter 5, verse 7 tells us that Yashua was heard because of his reverent submission. He faced the absolute void, and Yahweh answered him. Furthermore, Yashua completely embodied David's zeal for covenant justice. Think about his earthly ministry. Yashua consistently called out and unmasked the religious hypocrites of his day. He boldly confronted the leaders who spoke shalom with their lips but kept ra'ah, that deep wickedness inside their hearts. He exposed those double-minded evildoers, just like David prayed for in the psalm. So the biggest takeaway here is this. Yeshua is the ultimate final fulfillment of verse 8. He is the true Mashiach. He's the anointed one whom Yahweh saved from the power of death itself. And because Yahweh raised him up, Yeshua is eternally positioned to carry out that incredible fourfold pastoral prayer, to save, to bless, to shepherd, and to bear up the flock of Elohim forever. To wrap this explainer up, this psalm gives us such an essential operational template for navigating our own times of deception and injustice. Number 1, when those trials hit hard, cry out directly toward Yahweh's holiness. Do not stay silent. Number 2, trust in divine retribution. Leave the heavy judgment of those hypocrites to Yahweh, knowing for sure that he repays according to deeds. And number 3, let your own personal deliverance overflow into passionate outward prayers for the salvation and guidance of all Israel. I'm going to leave you with this to chew on in your own walk with Yeshua. When the silent void threatens and deception is swirling all around you, will you lift your hands to the unshakable rock and let your deliverance overflow to all Israel? Thank you so much for exploring the scriptures with me today. Keep seeking, keep studying his Torah, and always keep lifting your hands to the Devir.